Not gonna lie, I'm kind of bummed Catherine O'Hara's gone. She was awesome. Like, awesome. As a comedian, as an actor, just all around awesome human being. She's gonna be missed. All right, welcome to another DragonLance Saga Order of Ascetics news episode. It is Bakukal New Cult the 30th. My name is Adam, and today I was sifting through the Arcana Chronos, and I ran across a bit of news. I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga YouTube members and Patreon patrons, and invite you to consider becoming a member of Patreon if you're not already. It's hard to make an easy shift into that. You can even grab Dragonlance Media or pick up $10 by signing up to start playing .games using my affiliate. I feel like a whore. like whoring myself out for literally no reason. There's zero upside to me doing this. and yet I don't stop. Hey Justin, how you doing? What's up, S. Tempington? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Corey, how you doing? All right, let's start. Let's start by this. That's right, short story. It's still a thing. For how long? If you want to contribute to the DL Saga anthology, I welcome you to do so. Poems, short stories, quips. Don't send me any quips. I don't even really know what a quip is. You know, something under 8,000 words that would logically be a part of DL Saga short story anthology. Anyway, shoot an email, info@dlsaga.com, or visit this website, dlsaga.com/contributors. And it has all sorts of stuff here, like all the stats you need for specific informations. And intent to submit submission forms so I can save some room for you in case you require a little bit of room to squeeze in. And then there's a little FAQ. Pretty cool. All right, check it out. Let's dive in. Actually, you know what? Before we dive in, little update, little reminder. It's not even an update. It's a reminder for members and patrons. You actually have some benefits. You got weekly readings. You have monthly downloads. There's Discord sections just for you. There's discounts on merchandise. And if you're a patron of the developer tier, you get 2 free gaming sessions a month. Pretty cool. All right, now we're getting into it. Dungeons & Dragons sends out dope. I thought I was the only one that said dope. Do people say dope again? I've been saying it because I thought no one said it. But now, now that I find people are saying it, I don't want to say it anymore. D&D sends out dope new freebies, but not everyone will get it. So Dungeons & Dragons has made digital goodies a major part of the D&D Beyond ecosystem. But they're not always accessible to everyone. In most cases, bonuses like dice skins and character sheet backgrounds are reserved for subscribers. I have never once ever used a background, what do they call it? Character sheet background. I have no idea where to look for them, what they're supposed to be, how to apply them. What's the benefit? I don't understand what the point is of it. And then dice skins? Really? Just roll some damn dice. Who cares? Do people excitedly... This reminds me of NFTs. Do you guys remember NFTs? Non-fungible tokens or something like that? It was 100% a scam to allow you to own a portion of digital art or digital something, right? A portion. And so the only way that it actually had any real value is if other people ascribed value to it. And cut to 5 years later, no one cares. Not one person has ever been I wonder what the price of my NFT is right now. Or they're searching through their online files. Where did I put that NFT? I know it's here somewhere. No one cares. Same exact thing with D&D Beyond and their perks with their character sheet backgrounds. It's back in the day when it was Windows 95. You guys remember that? Windows 95. You would have all sorts of websites with really awesome background images. And then you would get them and apply them. For the last, I don't know, 20 years, I've never once thought about my desktop background. Like, it automatically changes on its own. I don't know where it gets the changes from, but it's just random images. And I've never thought about it because I always have images, like, if it's not like a full Adobe Creative Cloud program taking up a whole screen, then it's like little windows for web and software taking up all the screen. So I never look at my desktop background at all. So do people do that for their character sheets? Like, am I the odd man out here? I'm okay if I am, but I'm curious. It seems like the least amount of effort anyone could put into offering a benefit or a perk to someone else for giving them money. Like, give me money and I will send you images that you can then put into a background, or I will give you new dice, which act exactly the same as every other dice that you've ever owned in your entire life, but they look a little different. And how often are you looking at your dice when you're playing D&D anyway? You just roll it, calculate numbers, digitally it calculates it for you. So you're not even looking at the dice at all. You're just looking at the number. So the skin of the dice doesn't mean anything. All right, back to the article. I'm kind of in a shit mood today because of Catherine O'Hara. I didn't know her. I loved her movies. But Beetlejuice, I think the best movie that I've seen her in has to be Beetlejuice. She's been in some amazing films across the board, classics. But Lydia Dietz, oh, talk about dope. All right. The official D&D Beyond X account has now revealed a new character sheet background available to Sigil users for free. Sigil was D&D Beyond's attempt at a 3D virtual tabletop system, but the project was sunset only months after its alpha release. At the time of the announcement, the character sheet background was promised as one of several digital rewards for Sigil users. And in case you thought he was lying, here's a screenshot of the actual post. Why did people do that? A new character sheet arrives for Sigil users. D&D Beyond's Project Sigil backdrop appears in the image attached to the X post, showcasing a gold dragon on an iridescent background. The news hasn't made much of a splash overall, but it's earned the approval of at least one. And this is news. It has earned the approval of one person. So let's write an article on screenrant.com about it and have some asshole use it as a news bulletin on his YouTube show. Oh, sweet hell. All right. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Showcasing Gold Dragon Iridescent. At least one person found it amazing. They said dope. All right. So one other person says the word dope. Score Voltag is his name, is less positive, sarcastically remarking, well, that fixes everything. Project Sigil's story is largely an unfortunate one, as the virtual tabletop never had much of a chance to grow into its potential. The alpha release was far from fantastic, but it wasn't any worse than the average alpha, and a finished version could have proven to be an interesting alternative to traditional VTTs. Yeah, if WotC/Hasbro would have cared at all to communicate between their game division and the VTT division, and they clearly didn't. You definitely enjoy the content. Oh, that's cool. You never heard of character background sheets unless it's given a backstory of a character. No, in this case, I think it's just an image, like right here on the screen where it has the character sheet in the middle and then images on either side. So how to find out if you have the new character sheet? If you've played Sigil before, its shutdown announcement, the profile backdrop should already be in your D&D Beyond account. To check, you can do the following. Open a character sheet. Hold on, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this with you live. D&D Beyond. And you're going to see how few characters I actually have on this. All right, create a character. What did it say? Where'd it go? Open a character sheet. Oh, okay. I'm going to open this one. We're going to do this together, holding hands. I have an image background right there. I wonder how that came there. All right, so select manage next to your character name. Manage. Change sheet appearance under character avatar. Change sheet appearance. Select backdrop. Backdrops. I don't even ever remember getting these. I had no idea I had all these. Sub perks. I had no idea I had these. Huh. What do you know? Sigil backdrop. There it is. And there it is. See? It is real. Wait, how do I close this now? Okay. It's Gold Dragon. Yep. That's it. Awesome. Previous Sigil rewards were detailed in the initial shutdown announcement, including 6 months of D&D Beyond's highest subscription tier and digital dice. Information about accessing the digital dice can be found there. So if you had Sigil, you've already received the email. I got it earlier this week, and it just gives you a link and a code to redeem the dice, and then apparently they just auto-add the art into your D&D Beyond account or something like that for the backdrop. So if you're genuinely excited about Sigil, the profile backdrop might feel like an underwhelming consolation prize. Regardless, it's nice to get something out of the experience. At the very least, Sigil users can stunt on everyone who skipped out on the failed Dungeons & Dragons venture, and the virtual tabletop will still be available to use until service ends in October this year. All right. So did you guys ever use Sigil? I did Sigil came with like a mini adventure type thing that you could run. I think this was like in the late beta stage that you could run with your group of friends. And so I sent out keys to all my gaming friends that I was running. I don't know what I was running at the time. We were running a game together, and we played through it, and it was buggy. It didn't have all the functionality of the characters or the characters' abilities, and so it was very stripped down, and it was like a video game version of Dungeons & Dragons rather than Dungeons & Dragons, which is why I don't really like those types of tabletops, those virtual like 3D immersive things, because it's really supposed to be your imagination, and it's supposed to be the engagement at the table. That's what this game is all about, in my opinion. Not 3D accurate renderings of X or Y. But I don't shame anyone for loving it. I mean, the other players at the table absolutely loved playing the VTT, and they wanted to continue playing it. But I just, after running it once, it wasn't even worth my time ever to try to figure it out anymore, because it was so clunky and buggy and limited. But what are you going to do? Hey, Buster. You set yours all the time. All right. Well, I'm on an island out here alone, apparently. Yeah. So make sure you guys check. If you ever tried that alpha test or beta test, you probably have this information. So check your spam if you didn't get it in your email and stuff. And yeah, if you care, because it's dope. All right. Next up, an Elden Ring Night Rain TTRPG is coming from the folks who crushed D&D in Japan. Group SNE's adaptation from Software's RPG will drop sometime this spring. Before Elden Ring Night Rain was released, Rare was the video game fan who heard the concept Dark Souls meets Fortnite, and though it might actually work. Nearly a year later, we now know that it's more than just an accountable conceit. Night Rain and its Forsaken Hollows DLC kick ass. I want to have hope, then, about Group SNE's announcement on January 26th that it is adapting From Software's unusual action game into a tabletop RPG. Can I imagine how it might function? Not at all. Most people can't seem to conceptualize Night Rain as a tabletop RPG, even if they're excited by it, based on the baffled social media replies to the news. But Group SNE may have the pedigree to pull it off. You might remember them as the people behind Sword World RPG, the role-playing game that was so popular in Japan that it nearly snuffed out Dungeons and Dragons from the country in its entirety. It also helps that it isn't the group SNE's first rodeo. The team was behind the Japanese adaptation of the Dark Souls TTRPG, not to be confused with Steamforge's Games' $5.4 million Kickstarter project that has also attempted to do the same. You might also know Group SNE from the high fantasy Record of Lodos war franchise, which has sold millions of copies of everything from novels to manga. There's not much information on what players can expect from Group SNE's Elden Ring Night Rain adaptation, other than it will be released sometime in spring 2026. Jeez. What? They just announced it on the 26th, like 4 days ago, and it's going to be out in spring? So they must be using an established system then, right? Because that's a very short window to develop a TTRPG in. Those of you who know Japanese... What? Those of you who know Japanese can get a sneak peek at what the TTRPG looks like? Oh, the language, duh. As well as its mechanics from the 20th issue of GM Warlock magazine that goes on sale January 29th. Would it be too much to hope for an eventual English translation as well? The new Night Rain DLC is fantastic, but without more content, I'll soon need to get my fix elsewhere. All right, I've never played Elden Ring or Night Rain, or if it's the same thing, it. I played Dark Souls for 5 minutes, and then I realized that it's definitely not for me. And I've never, ever played Fortnite. So, the reason why I have this on here, and some of the other ones that we're going to be talking about here in a second, is that creating your own campaign setting can seem kind of daunting and pointless when you have an infinite number of campaign settings out there to play. But this just tells you that there is always an audience for something new and refreshingly different, right? So even if there are campaign settings, think of it like, this is kind of a stupid comparison. I'm going to do it anyway. Think of it like soft drinks, okay? Soda, Coke. So you've got Coke, you've got Pepsi, you have Cola from Shasta, and then you have a bunch of other B-grade knockoff variations of that drink. And then you have 7-Up and Sprite and lemon lime Shasta and various B-grade knockoffs. So you have the exact same thing in different branded packages of varying degrees of quality and interest, and people consume all of them. And people will even go to the B-grade ones over the name brand ones in some cases, because there's, if not some sort of memory of youth of drinking that because of poverty, in my case, or in some other cases, you're going for the name brand because you are name brand loyal, as us advertisers appreciate. Thank you very much. So it is very interesting to me that we are consistently seeing new TTRPGs and campaign settings for established TTRPGs coming out to the market. And there's always this conversation about new, latest breaking indie developed TTRPG or campaign setting that blows everyone away, or new game mechanics that's amazing, and all these TTRPGs are coming out all the time, and yet people are like, oh, I guess we'll just play D&D, right? There's a bazillion different games with an equal amount of, not literally, an equal amount of campaign settings that you could explore. You don't have to just play D&D. DragonLance, I've played it in at least 4 or 5 different TTRPG game systems on this channel alone, let alone, anything else I've ever done. So I always want to remind people to keep the game system separate from the campaign setting, because you can add and mix them however you like. If you prefer, I don't know, Morkborg. I don't even know what that is, but I've heard it before. If you prefer Morkborg, well, then you can run Dragonlance in it somehow. It's just applying a new campaign setting to an existing game system. So when a game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring is coming out with its own TTRPG, it might be manufacturing some new mechanics based on some backbone system like 5th edition, for example, but it's really the setting, the IP that people are buying it for. And same with all those Kickstarters for all those TTRPGs that people will never play, like Thundercats. People will back it because they love the IP for some nostalgic reason, but they'll probably play it once, maybe twice, and never again. If that. But they'll definitely spend the money on it. So don't ever limit yourself in your creative expression or for fear that the market is already drowning in like supplements. There's always someone that will be interested in what you have to offer if there's a differentiating factor involved, right? If you're just copying what other people are doing, then clearly there's nothing different. Why should anyone pay attention? But if there's a difference, then there's an audience for that. And this is just evidence of that. This is a video game. If people wanted to play this, they just play the video game. But they're making a TTRPG, and some people will play it. So it's always, yeah, I played GURPS. I actually am planning on playing GURPS on one of my other channels, actually. All right. So let's move on from Elden Ring to new Fallout solo RPG. Let you go off the beaten track. No game master or party required. When you purchase... Oh, never mind. Okay. The Fallout solo RPG knows that sometimes you just want to veer off the beaten track. Hey, it says, what's over there? Because the budget is the entirety of your imagination. It can be the start of a buck wild adventure, or maybe your chance to explore a part of this post-apocalyptic world nobody's ever seen. It's the kind of creativity that makes Dungeons & Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games great, with none of the scheduling snafus. Fallout Wasteland Wanderer is a solo RPG designed by Modifius, the team behind the more than a few tabletop RPGs and wargames, including a Fallout Skirmisher, putting you in charge of raider factions. That means you don't need a game master to run it, unlike the best tabletop RPGs. There's no party to schedule around either. All that's required is the rulebook, dice, a pen, and some paper. I'll admit that I've never played a solo RPG before now, despite having run D&D and the like for years. I don't entirely understand how it would work. Wasteland Wanderer, though, it might be the first one to get me off my arse and into the action. After digging through an early copy of the rules, I was struck by a couple of things. Firstly, that it feels like excellent world-building inspiration. You're essentially creating your own little realm with non-player characters and new locations from scratch, after all. Secondly, the act of journaling your hero's experiences means you're creating the kind of logs you find in the video games. Though with any luck, we'd be more successful than those poor suckers. That's catnip for Fallout fans like me. With that in mind, I caught up with Ben Monder, lead writer at Modifius. Why can I not say that? To find out exactly how the system works. What I came away with is the sense that this could be the perfect project for folks who have always been curious about solo RPGs, but never knew where to start. First off, congrats on another launch. How's the team feeling about the Fallout TTRPG and how it's been received by the community so far? Thank you! The team is really excited to see more and more people picking up the TTRPG, especially given the massive success of the Amazon show. Player feedback has been great. It's always invigorating to see people meshing with an IP so close to many hearts. Is the Amazon show doing well? I watch it because my wife watches it. And so I'm staring at the screen, but I am not into this at all. Like, I am tuning out most of the time. I have to usually ask, like, wait, what was that? Why is that? Huh? It's just, it doesn't speak to me for some reason. And I like post-apocalyptic storytelling, but for some reason, this version, Fallout just doesn't do it for me. I'm more of like a, oh my gosh. I just completely had a brain dump. Bioshock. Bioshock, yeah. More of a Bioshock kind of guy. Where you have your retro vibes, but it's through a horror lens. Still a little post-apocalyptic-ish, but not so much like this, where it's 1950s, hey, woohoo, sort of. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I just don't get it. Do you guys get it? Is it doing well? Like, am I the only one again? Am I on an island here? How long has the solo source book been in the works? Thanks for this, by the way. As a Fallout fan, someone who sometimes struggles to find time to play, I really appreciate the project. We're glad. You're exactly the type of person we made this book for. With the way the world at the moment, people are finding less and less time to engage with their hobbies and dive into the stories that mean so much to them. Being able to help those people get the same time is the reason a lot of us got into the business. Wanderers have been battling around the office for the better part of 2 years now, though the planning for it began 3 years back. So yeah, it's been in the pipeline for a while. What's the main difference between developing for a party and designing for a single person? Generally, the difference comes down to a single word: intent. Parties want to play together. They are inherently playing a shared story where each player wants something slightly different. They want to use different tools to achieve different goals, and the game has to cater to all those different desires. Everyone's needs require balancing against one another, and that requires a lot of rigorous fine-tuning. The player who wants to charge through a horde of ghouls in power armor needs to have as much agency as the player whose main goal is to sell the greatest Nuka-Cola cocktail on the West Coast. The experience, while different, must be as satisfying for every player around the table, including the game master. Obviously, that means you're designing a lot of things for a lot of people. It takes time, iteration, varied playtest groups, etc. For solo games, however, you're hitting a totally different metric. Suddenly, you're only focusing on helping one person tell their story, empowering them with the tools they need to facilitate making decisions. Rather than worrying about balancing 4 different people, not only against the game, but also against each other, you only need to worry about the one-on-one experience. Now, how that works is a whole topic in and of itself. So as not to completely devastate anyone's word count, let's just boil it down to intent. I imagine switching gears to solo play for this book has been a bit of a mental shift. Can you talk me through any challenges that you might have had during the process? Wanderers passed through 2 designers, and I know both of them had their own trials and tribulations. The project was headed by the amazing Jess Gibbs, who did a fantastic job capturing the core feeling of what a Fallout solo RPG should be. She laid the foundations of how the system works and identified the levers you, as a player, can pull to propel your story forward. I know she tried a few incarnations of that before ending on the final point you'll see. After Jess finished up, Jack Caesar of Caesar Inc. fame came in to do a development pass and refine some elements that just needed a little extra bit of polish or shine. I know he spent a lot of time trimming the edges on the action system to make each choice as quick and easy as possible. Finally, I jumped in at the end, one final pass to dot the I's and cross the T's, and honestly, my main challenge was the fact that I'd never played a solo RPG before, so there was a lot of time getting used to the new way of playing and, frankly, really enjoying it. The idea of blockers for your main quest that the characters got to overcome is intriguing. How did you settle on this particular idea rather than another approach? It feels like a gamified version of Hero's Journey story structure. You've hit the nail on the head there. Fallout Story has nearly always followed the classic Hero's Journey script, and in wanting to replicate the feeling of playing through the Fallout Story, the connection was easy. Blockers allow the story you generate and play through to push back. A challenge many writers and first-time solo players find is giving themselves a plot to work against. The blockers system makes sure to lift that weight for you, generating challenges and pushing the story forward. For players less worried about that particular issue, they can simply pick the blockers they are facing rather than generate one via the rulebook. Meaning, we're not taking the agency away from players who want it. While I can't speak for either Jess or Jack, I can say that they've done a fantastic job with blockers. All right. So are you guys into solo RPG games? I've done, choose your own adventure books. DragonLance had the Dragon Wand game. I can't remember what it was called. Quest for the Dragon Wand or Dragon Wand of Krynn, I think it's what it's called. And that was like a 2-player version of a book game. But you could do it I did it solo once. And they have tons of game books that they released early on in TSR's novel releasing history. So I do enjoy the solo play experience. I'm not sure. You've recently been playing The Witcher 3. Is that a solo RPG? I'm always interested in how in the type of person that exclusively plays solo RPGs rather than playing a video game. Because I don't really understand the itch that you're scratching that's different. I mean, one is analog and one is digital. That's the big difference, of course, but not all video games are twitchy. You know, you don't have to be like crazy on it with your firing or aiming or anything like that. So, especially with some RPGs, you can be much more casual of a gamer and still really enjoy them. So I don't know. I mean, is it the story that would be the determining factor? Is it the IP that's the determining factor? Let me know what you guys think. Solo video game RPG. Oh, gotcha. All right. So, and also Fallout. Do you guys like Fallout? I know it's hugely popular. The video games have been around for a long time. And if you're a Fallout fan, you are a diehard Fallout fan. I've never met someone that's into Fallout that's just like casually into it. And I've just never really been able to get into it personally. So it's always interesting to me when I have some exposure to an IP that I don't resonate with, what about that IP resonates with other people? Because like I've had lifelong friends that are into things that I'm just not even interested in, though we share so many similarities in life. And I think having that disparate experience of, likes and dislikes actually enriches the engagement between two people, you know? I mean, trying to understand what they like about something is enlightening to me. I don't know why it interests me, but it actually does. So let me know what you think. All right, the last article we're going to do is not this pop-up. Go away. This is a thick pop-up at the bottom. Jeez. This indie RPG is part old school D&D, part Resident Evil, and I'm already hyped. Crows is the next game from the team behind Draw Steel, and it promises a survival horror take on old school Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, hold on. This is what I don't get about the whole old school revival approach. You already have the old games. Like they exist. So is it just mechanics outside of house rules that you're trying to capture that's different? Like what is it about old school revival, if you're a fan of it, that is the reason that you're drawn to it rather than just going to those old school games? Because survival horror takes on an old school Dungeons and Dragons. That's all Dungeons and Dragons used to be, was survival horror. You went into a dungeon and you had to survive that shit. And it was not easy. That's where 10-foot poles and grappling hooks and 50 feet of rope came from. So, they're just trying to recreate the wheel, it looks like. But with modern mechanics or something. Probably meaning paper and pencil table play. I don't know. All right, so on Thursday, MCDM Productions, the studio behind the hit action fantasy RPG Draw Steel, announced that work was underway on Crows, a survival horror dungeon crawling role-playing game. In a lengthy Patreon post, writer James Introcaso, is that a real last name, lays out the pitch for the game. And it is literally everything I have been searching for in a modern game inspired by old school Dungeons and Dragons. It's the survival horror vibe that has me particularly interested. In old school D&D dungeon crawls, vulnerable adventurers march into a dark hole in the ground in the hopes of making it back alive and slightly wealthier. Combat is lethal and hardly rewarded with experience points, so lateral thinking, puzzle solving, and evasion are all essential. It takes a long time to gain levels, so your equipment can really define your abilities, creating really weird, distinctive characters, and mundane items, food, torch, rope, pythons, are critical to your success, creating a balancing act between stocking up on gear and carrying loot. Designers in the old school Renaissance movement of, I thought it was revival, not Renaissance. All right. Is this like taste great, look less filling? movement of retro-inspired RPGs has spent decades developing more elegant and fun rules for conveying those ideas than the earlier D&D ever did. And reading the Patreon post describing crows, it seems like MCDM has harvested all the best ideas from the OSR to add to its game. While the description hasn't set out whether there be anything like D&D classes yet, it seems not. Instead, a character's capabilities will be largely defined by the equipment they're carrying, while their competence with that equipment will depend a bit on their stats. That's supposed to incentivize your dungeon delving. If you want to improve on your spellcasting, you need to find a new spellbook, and ties into classic D&D concept, what's in your bag is a life and death matter. There have been so many ways to track equipment in different games, and D&D's weight-based inventory is one of the most miserable. Crows uses item slots, 2 hand slots for your equipped items, 2 belt slots you can easily swap to, a few gear slots for rings, gloves, and boots, and then 10 back slots for items that are hard to access. There's rules for recreating the horror of rummaging in your pack in a hurry while something tries to eat you. To grab something from a back slot, you need a roll equal to or higher than its number. Fail, and all you can do is turn to rearrange your inventory. So this is like an inventory management game more than an TTRPG, is what it sounds like. The inventory system abstracts encumbrance away nicely. Armor eats up some of your back slots. It also ties into your health system. When you take damage, this first reduces your armor durability, if you're wearing any armor, and then your stamina. When those hit 0, you take wounds, each of which knocks out one of your back slots. So the more injured you are, the less gear you can carry, and losing gear means losing competencies. While stamina and armor durability recover after a rest, wounds need proper healing outside the dungeon. Inventory items are going to be recorded on note cards so that you can easily rearrange them, hand them off to other players, or reluctantly drop them when you take wounds. One of the key features of old school D&D was the importance of time. If a torch or a light spell only lasted for an hour, the length of time you spent in a dungeon might be strictly limited. Crows combines 2 ways to track this. First, there's a dungeon round, 30 minutes of real time. At the end of that period, the DM will check to see if there's any wandering monsters, and the players will roll usage dice for any light sources, lasting spells, or similar that they have. This is a pool of d6s. Any 1s or 2s in the result gets removed and won't be rolled in future tests. And as soon as the pool is empty, the resource is used up. It's possible that your last torch could burn on well beyond the point that it should have expired, but it might flicker out in the middle of combat at the exact moment that a wandering monster joins the fight. Combat is promised to be lethal, and your adventurer's real goal is to get paid. As well as the classic old school experience system in which you get experience based on the treasure you bring back to civilization, you'll be able to invest in your town, bringing in new merchants with better gear. Dead PCs can be entombed in memorials the future adventurers can visit for inspiration, while high-level adventurers can retire to give out other benefits to the settlement. The art lead, Nick Despain, will be working on all monsters for the game to ensure there's a real WTF moment when the players encounter them. They won't even be named beyond a label like Undead A, leaving it up to the players to come up with terms for the thing tormenting them. Obviously, there's a big gap between a design brief for an RPG and a finished game, but it's a recipe full of great ingredients I've wanted to see put together for a long time. None of these ideas are tremendously novel. Intricasso acknowledges many other games have used them throughout the Patreon post, but a well-mixed classic could still be excellent. I'll be watching this closely. I think that's interesting, especially the way that they're not just the inventory management, but with the light system, because that was a real problem when you were doing old school dungeon delving, and just carrying what you find out meant that you were leaving behind a whole lot of treasure. You can't bring out 8,000 coins in a big chest when you're still delving through it. So you kind of have to stow it in places that you know you can find on the way back, on your way out of the dungeon, so that you can then try to capitalize on and hope no other heroes or no other NPCs or no other monsters found it in the interim. It's very, very cool, in my opinion, to dive into that level of detail when it comes to D&D and dungeon delving. And it looks like people are just creating new systems to do what was already part of the system originally, but in different ways. And you can't be mad about that. I mean, not one rule set does not resonate with all people. So it is interesting to see different iterations of those same functions that do resonate in different ways with different people. So yeah, I mean, this does sound kind of interesting. I wouldn't mind doing a one-time playthrough once it's ready to be released. I kind of like the concept vibe of it anyway. What do you guys think? All right. That's kind of all I have. This is a quick one. That's it for this OA News episode. Did you ever play Sigil VTT, and do you prefer it to maps? Are you a fan of solo TTRPGs? And finally, what is your most anticipated tabletop role-playing game? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. Thank you to creator patron Aaron Hardy, producer patrons Azrael, developer patrons Chris Androu and Sam Ruiz, and all of the YouTube members. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga. I hope you'll join in that celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slanjavar.